HM Enterprise.
Are you thinking about strong, durable electric and electronic appliances such as electric wires, sockets, modern switches, stand and ceiling fans of different categories, flat screen TVs of different sizes, solar fridges and freezers, solar panels, solar batteries, beaming ceiling lights? Look no further than HM Enterprise. We are open for contracts and supply of materials from Combo to Basse. Visit us at number 1 Caraba Avenue, Westfield, or call us on 4396270, 4396270 or 7713911. HM Enterprise, going further.
HM Enterprise, going further.
This program is brought to you by BB Consultancy in partnership with B4U Properties,
your reliable estate dealer,
BMG Properties,
Outstanding home providers,
Kairos Real Estate,
link us and be a home builder.
Dabo Real Estate,
Operation Own Your Property,
Global Properties,
your innovative property solutions.
Him from 3 Company,
always at your service.
Combo Real Estate,
Operation Shelter Donation.
Sultan Traders and Real Estate,
We don't bend the truth to make sales.
Top Spot Properties,
Ideal home for all.
DAF Africa Global.
Our experience is global. Our focus is Africa.
Assalamu alaikum viewers, welcome to the Gambia's Real Estate TV show with me, Abubakar Dabo. Today we'll be discussing the economic impact of the Gambia's real estate. With me, I have Nyanjai. Mr. Nyanjai is one of the Gambia's finest economists. Welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you. It's a pleasure having me.
In case you've been anticipating to know the proliferation of the Gambia's real estate, here we are. We'll be back after the commercials. Welcome back if you're just joining us. Nyanjai, welcome back after that short commercial. Over the years, we have seen the influx of the real estate agencies in this country. Does this impact anything about on our economy in the country?
Precisely. Real estate has been one of the drivers of growth in the Gambian economy, and mostly it has been fueled by diasporan Gambians trying to own a piece of the Gambia by buying real estate. This didn't come with a surprise, because we all know that in Gambia, tourism, fisheries, and to a point agriculture are the local drivers of the economic environment. But one thing we know, construction boom has been going on for at least 12 to 15 years, and this construction boom has been backed by Gambians living outside of the Gambia. If you look at 10 homes being built in Gambia, you can safely say that 6 of them are owned by people living outside the Gambia. But this didn't come without teething problems. Some of the teething problems are people buying real estate that is encumbered, people buying real estate without being able to have a title, and these are all due to bad management of the public space as it relates to real estate, such as no land registry. So there is double ownership of land, and these are some of the things that the government need to help curb, and also have a regulatory body to regulate people in the business of real estate, because now real estate has basically turned into banking. Why? People make a deposit to real estate companies on a monthly basis,
yes,
to end up owning a property over 36 to 48 months. What does that mean? It means real estate companies have become depositor companies, and depositor companies just act like banks. What if they go bankrupt? They're owing people money, and those people are not getting their titles before finishing the payment. So there has to be government oversight by way of regulation.
Yes, aware of regulation. This has been our outcry for many genuine investors in the real estate industry. If in case the real estate industry is really impacting the economy of the Gambia, don't you think with all this regulation being put place, the GDP of the Gambia should have surpassed 6.1?
Well, GDP is an approximation, and sometimes the approximation doesn't capture things properly. I always tell people as an economist that whenever you have a figure, a statistic, let's say that real estate is growing by X, you can always add a factor, because the factor you're adding is what's coming under the table, what's coming below the radar. But I can safely say that real estate is one of the fastest drivers of growth in the Gambia, but the government need to step in to sanitize the environment, because at the end of the day, there are people getting into the business and all they're doing is destroying value instead of enhancing value.
Exactly. That value comes back to the pricing of the properties in this country. Looking at the reality of some price tags on some of the properties, especially the so-called highway properties. Is this in conformity with the Gambia's economy with regards to our income?
Unfortunately, the Gambian real estate market is highly speculative, and in a speculative market, people don't use conventional means of valuation. There is a lot of emotions and expectations attached to this valuation, i.e., once a road is being constructed, if you look at the Sukuta Jambanjeli road,
yes,
6 years ago, you could have gotten a property there next, pennies to the dollar. Today, it's fetching a premium, and the premium is not what you can get today, but what the sellers expect as it relates to the potential in that place. That in itself is a problem. The second problem is, in this market we have what you call information asymmetry, meaning the information that's available for a willing buyer to make a sound decision is not adequate. So basically sentiments to a large extent drive prices. And also a willing seller and a willing buyer also drive prices. Some people are willing to buy at any cost. Once they buy a property at that price, that becomes the effective going rate for that particular area. So these sometimes tend to create problems. Let's say properties in Jabang, 20 by 20 on the highway, we're going for $400,000. Yes. All of a sudden, Nyang Jai steps in and said, okay, I will pay 20 by 20 for $950. Effectively, Nyang Jai has changed the price level, the entry price level for that area from 400 to 950, and that's what's happening, and it's not good.
Is it not because the development is concentrated at a time at one point?
Well, real estate is a store of wealth. People put monies in real estate to store their wealth, make sure it doesn't depreciate, and also make a return on it, either through building or just holding it.
Yes.
So in Gambia we have few investment opportunities, i.e. we don't have a stock market, i.e. the only thing people have is to either hold foreign exchange, buy treasury bills, or otherwise buy properties. So what's been happening is unfortunate, but that's it. We have limited investment vehicles
in the country.
So real estate is probably one of the most frequent and one of the most understood and one of the most easily managed by investors. So they pump in their money.
When you talk about easily managed and understood, this is also giving us problem. If you look at the market today and you compare the complainants and the people that are satisfied, when you're looking at talking about the competence level, the technical know-how of operating the real estate is very open right now. Anybody can jump into real estate business.
Well, the first rule of doing business and wanting to buy, because what is a transaction? A transaction is a willing buyer and a willing seller.
Yes.
But the first rule is the responsibility of the buyer, and it's called caveat emptor, buyer beware. The buyer needs to know what it entails. He or she needs to do a due diligence. We live in a free market.
Good.
But in as much as it's a free market, it's the responsibility of the state to come up with guidelines to protect would-be buyers, to make sure that their investment will not go in vain, to make sure that bandits, people who are in the business not to stay but in the business to loot and move on, are not part of the market. And the only way that can happen is to have regulatory oversight. And it's time, because insurance, banking are highly regulated in Gambia. So I see no reason why real estate should not be regulated, especially if they are taking monthly payments from people. Those are deposits. And anyone by law making a deposit towards something needs protection should, in case the person you're making deposits to happen to be bankrupt or happens to be out of business.
Social Security been very dormant in the market?
Not really. I mean, Social Security, they've been having excess cash through pensioner funds, and they've been pumping it into real estate, thereby making a return to give back pensioners a decent return on their savings or deposits or investment into the Provident Fund. That's why they were into housing. And they were able to give Gambians affordable housing. But they were self-regulation in what they were doing. So now what is needed in the absence of public regulation, government regulation, I think serious real estate companies should come together and regulate themselves before being regulated. And that will drive away the fly-by-nights or the briefcase cowboy businesses who are entering the business. But at the end of the day, everyone suffers. The brand names that are selling properties, they may be doing good, but the ones that are doing illicit business will make the whole sector look bad. And that's one thing they need to avoid. And the best way to avoid it is to self-regulate the industry, the players to regulate themselves.
Self-regulate with the backing of the government, I believe.
Well, even without the backing of the government, if they come up with a strong association.
There has been an association existing for over 5-6 years now, but I think there's something lacking. They are not doing well.
Well, it means the will is not there. The government has a big role to play in the mess that real estate in itself finds itself in the Gambian context. One, we have a problem of zoning. Zoning in the sense that I can sell you a farm and you turn it into commercial space overnight. I can sell you a property today and you turn it into a warehouse in the middle of a residential area. I can sell you a property that has been sold to 5 other people, given documents by the very government over and over and over. So what does that mean? It means government agencies, i.e. fiscal planning, Department of Lands, and even the municipalities are not sharing same databases.
No.
And when this happens, chaos happens. And when chaos happens, lack of confidence in the sector happens. And when lack of confidence in the sector happens, investors buying property are jittery. And that's not good for sustainable development of real estate in the country. So that's why the government needs to step in. And the first thing they need to do is to have a land registry. And with a land registry, people who are buying will now have the confidence that whatever they're buying is free and not encumbered.
We're having about 50 to 60 real estate agencies. If all these people are tax compliant, I'm still considering the 6.5, that estimated GDP could have been more than that.
Well, we all know that in the Gambia, capital gains is something that should be paid on transaction, especially involving real estate. But most of the time, people suppress the transaction price.
Good.
So let's say you sell a land for 15 million, you register the
5 million.
Transaction at 5, you will pay taxes on 5. And these are things that suppress the real buoyancy of the capital movement and intended capital movement for certain transaction, i.e. land transaction. So what needs to change is for government to digitize. When government digitize and payments are not made in cash and payments are made through transactions by way of transfer, it will be very difficult for people to suppress payments. So government has to change payment systems, and once payment systems change more to digital systems, you are forced to really put a transaction for what it is, or you will have monies in your account that you cannot account for.
Small country, less than 2 million, perhaps, we having such a number of real estate agencies. Does it make sense?
Well, it doesn't make sense to the economy, but it makes sense to the practitioners, the people in the business. Why am I saying that? The economy, 2 million, and in a free market we will say the more the merrier, and let them kill themselves and the strong ones survive. But that is if
yes,
everything is equal. But in the case of the Gambia, everything is not equal because people are not playing by the book.
Good.
So the reason why you have so many real estate companies, you can do bad things and get away with it. So instead of being in business to make profit, you are in business to rob people. And if you go to the courts, we have a plethora of lawsuits waiting to be adjudicated. Why? Because the people who are selling don't have the mandate to sell. Families disputing, and one member of a family selling on behalf of others without the permission of everyone else. So these are, everyday stories we hear in the Gambia, and that's why it's the responsibility of the government to sanitize the real estate environment.
The courts are filled with such law files or lawsuits against some of the many real estate agencies, for that matter.
Absolutely.
But we'll be back after this short commercial. We'll talk about who are the competence, what are some of the criterions that to be looked at before you operate a real estate agency in a small country like the Gambia. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, I'm Abubakar Dabo, and my guest this evening is Mr. Nyanjai, the Gambia's, or one of the Gambia's top finance economists. Nyanjai, welcome back.
Well, thanks for the accolade, but I'm just a student of economics.
Nonetheless, you're still our master. Now, who do you think, when you put on your economic lenses, what do you think the government should look at before accepting registration for someone to operate as a real estate investor in this country?
Well, I think we can put the cart before the horse. That's the second step. The government first needs to sanitize land registry. What is available? What can be sold? Who owns what? How strong is title? Once the government establish these, then the next step is who can be an operator in real estate, and this comes with guidelines. Now you need a license. Before you get a license, what are the prerequisites? What do you need to own a license? And these are steps that the government can do, but it will only happen when there is a legislation that enacts a regulatory body. And this regulatory body will have procedures, guidelines into the issuance of a license to operate within the sector. And that's not for Nyanjai to say, but that's for the regulators to say. But what the regulators need is a law enacting and giving them the powers to be and operate a sanitized real estate environment in the country.
The one that are selling the naked land and the one that are selling a built house, you can see the price margin is very vast. But comparing this to our income, our salary income, which one of these two sectors in the industry is helping the Gambian?
Well, I will say neither are helping as it is right now. A country that's made up of poor people, bulk of the Gambians are people who are poor, and bulk of Gambians have what you call a housing deficit, meaning they are in need of housing by way of renting or ownership. So what we need here is basically low-income homes. And the last time Gambia had access to low-income homes was tough at Yarambamba. And we're talking about over 10 to 13, 14 or 15 years ago. Since then, I haven't seen a concerted effort by a developer to come out right with a big amount of low-income housing. We haven't seen that. The first one was Bakote, and that was government by way of Social Security. And TAF came in a big way, Yarambamba Estate, and we're yet to see another mega low-income development. So the reason why I said that none of them are helping, all the developers, I don't want to name names, are going into middle to high income homes. And middle to high income homes will only cater for no more than 13 to 14% of the population. 85% to 90% of Gambians cannot buy those homes. But unfortunately, there is a market for that. So, is the market serving the greater goods interest? My answer is no. But secondly, the people who are selling just properties like that, I think the government need to come up with a guideline. If you go into a green field, cut a big acreage of land and demarcate it, you need to make sure there are drains, you need to make sure there are roads, you need to make sure there are utilities, i.e. water and electricity, before you sell 1 square meter of land there. If not, it's a recipe for natural disasters, and we have seen floodings happening because people just grade a big vast expanse without doing the proper civil works that need to come in terms of drainage and other things. And that's the responsibility of government to make sure that developers go with a certain guideline. So are people getting value for money buying? The answer is no, because no one is protecting the people who are buying. Imagine you buy a property, you develop it. 3 years later, road construction come and the road is even higher than the foundation of your house. It's not your fault, because planning was done the other way around. The road should have been there before your foundation was erected. But unfortunately, your foundation came in before the house. And some homes are prone to flooding because they're low-lying relative to the roads.
You mentioned something very, very important. That's the flooding aspect of it. I also believe the buyers, the wannabe buyers, also need to look at things before they invest in their money.
Well, I'm a free market advocate, and I am happy that Social Security is taking more of a backseat in this business and private enterprise are really stepping in. That is what's going to grow the economy, the private sector.
Okay.
But in as much as the private sector is going to grow the economy, is the responsibility of the government to regulate private sector. So what do we need now? We need public-private initiatives. These public-private initiatives means private sector can go into areas owned by the government, invest to develop the place and sell it. But what we really need is housing for the army, housing for teachers, housing for the police, housing for the nurses, doctors. These are the people, the average civil servant. They make a bulk of our society and they are under-catered for, and no one is catering for them. So what the government need to do is to enter into arrangements with private enterprise on a PPI, public-private initiatives, to make sure that low-cost housing is accessible to the average Gambian who cannot even buy a $1 million home. And how can we do that? Sustainable buildings, eco buildings. So that's where the government need to come in, and you can have high-end real estate companies who will still sell to the 10% of the market who wants homes between $5 and $9 million. It's no problem. But the government need to find a way to work with private enterprise to cater for the low-end market who form the bulk of the Gambians who need housing, hence the big housing deficit this country happens to have.
Sometimes there will be a vast chunk of land owned by the government and it will be there for many years.
Well, the rate at which things are happening in Gambia, unfortunately, there is what you call land banking. We have a different set. You have people who are demarcating and selling. You have people who are accumulating and sitting on it, expecting higher returns 10, 15 years down the line. And that's what you call land banking. And the government need to be very, very careful. I mean, we have seen things like this in Zimbabwe and other places.
Yeah.
Imagine a child born in Brufut in 2010 will not be able to buy a property in Brufut come 25, 30 years from now. And that's a shame. Your own birthplace, you cannot own properties. And why? Because of the highly speculative nature of the real estate market.
That points at some of the individual, in fact, not only estate agencies, but because estate agencies are doing well when it comes to that, because they just demarcate it and sell it to anybody who can afford it. But there are individuals, I don't want to mention names, that are taking some very good points, some very good locations, keeping them, banking them. And this is only solely private, solely. Very few people are having direct benefit from this.
Well, that's the speculative nature of the market, and the people who can help in that are the municipalities. Because today, if a municipality comes to you and tell you this open space has to be developed, or we will find a way to find you a buyer and you must sell, that will stop the speculative nature of people holding on to it. So zoning and municipal enforcement of open spaces will really help drive away people who will buy big chunks of land, leave it idle, leave it fallow, hoping to sell it at a premium 10-15 years down the line.
Okay, the municipalities, this is the last questions. We just having only a minute to go. Another item.
In conclusion, I will tell you that land is a ticking time bomb in this country, and if not properly managed, it will be a major social problem for this country of ours. In terms of foreigners, I don't believe in that. I love Gambians to participate in the market, and I want government to encourage local content, but I will not help a Gambian over any other company if they don't meet the minimum. And hopefully in the next 5 to 10 years we will have the requisite competence, i.e. technological transfer, and also we will be equipped with the right equipment to do the jobs. Today, show me one Gambian road construction company, indigenous road construction company, with the right heavy equipment. None.
Partnering will be key.
Well, exactly. So that's what we need to do.
Gambian. Gambian look for a partner.
No. Why should I allow you to give you a contract where you are not bringing in value? What are you bringing into the table? So what you need to do, find a company that you can partner with, and
exactly,
you work. And but that is what we call local content, whereby whenever you give a contract to an international company, minimum 15% of the contract need to be given to a local company. That will make the local companies to really, invest in their competencies, both in terms of skill transfer and equipment ownership. And that's the only way forward. But we need not help our people by holding the hands of others. I am a free market advocate.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nyanjai.
Pleasure is all mine.
Thank you.
Okay.
Well, this is all we have for you today on our episodes of the Real Estate TV show. With Nyanjai, I'm Abubakar Dabo. Till we meet again.
This program is brought to you by BB Consultancy in partnership with B4U Properties,
Your reliable estate dealer.
BMG Properties,
Outstanding home providers.
Kairos Real Estate,
Link us and be a home builder.
Dabojula Real Estate,
Operation Own Your Property.
Global Properties,
Your innovative property solutions.
Him from 3 Company,
Always at your service.
Combo Real Estate,
Operation Shelter the Nation.
Sultan Traders and Real Estate,
We don't bend the truth to make sales.
Top Spot Properties,
Ideal home for all.
DAF Africa Global.
Our experience is global. Our focus is Africa.